This is episode 27 of the Spotters podcast. Today's show is all about the A-10 Warthog. The A-10 Warthog has a rich history and a unique role in the military. Today we get to hear from Cooper Thorne. He's just joined, who has had the pleasure of maintaining these beautiful aircraft, iconic aircraft. Cooper, thank you for your service and welcome to the channel, or to the show.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the channel too. We also had you on there on the weekend. You were sharing a bunch of shots. Man, it's been, jam-packed Warthog Central for the last few days. So
Absolutely. Glad to see it.
yeah, definitely going to do that more often. You had mentioned that, a great way to get people involved. Whatever we're going to talk about, we'll just start sharing more of it. So let's kick off and tell me, what made you decide to join the Air Force?
Yeah, honestly, it's been a while. It's hard to say if it was like one exact thing. But I was in high school. My initial plan, going through freshman, sophomore year, is like, okay, I want to go to Embry-Riddle in Daytona, get my aerospace engineering degree, and go that route. So I always knew I wanted to be involved in the space industry somehow later down the line. Got closer and kind of figured out throughout high school that college really wasn't the way I wanted to go. And I think it was about late in my junior year, about probably about halfway through my junior year, that I decided, I was like, I think that the military might be the way to go, good way to pay for school. And it's just a great all-around life experience. My grandpa was in the Air Force for a couple years. Almost all my grandpas served in one capacity or another in the Army, World War II. Dad served in the Coast Guard. So I wouldn't say I felt like I came from like a military family, but looking back, there is a lot of lineage for that. And so I always knew that if I did want to join the military, it was going to be the Air Force. So that was just an easy choice. So yeah, I want to say about halfway through my sophomore year, when COVID and everything hit too. So, interesting time for sure, but still said, I think I'm going to join the Air Force. Did that. I left for basic in July of 21. And yeah, it's been the best 4 years of my life. It's really changed my life in ways I had no idea. No idea. It's pretty incredible how much it's transformed my life.
Did you know that you're going to be working on A-10s when you joined up?
Not at all, actually. I said, so the way it works, you go to your recruiter, you talk to them, and you say, hey, I want to join the Air Force. And they're like, cool, get you all the paperwork. And long story short, they say, all right, it's a little different than other branches. You give them a list of your top 10 jobs that you want. You call it your dream sheet. And you say, I would like one of these 10 jobs. And they'll try and work with you. They'll go from number one, all right, cool. That job is full, or we already have too many people for that job, or you don't qualify. Now, typically, which ones you qualify after you take the ASVAB.
Yeah.
And so you'll automatically know, you say, okay, I qualify for these jobs, and I pick 10 out of these jobs. Make your list in terms of top priority to lowest priority. And so I said, I think I'd like to work with my hands. I'm pretty mechanically inclined, so maintenance was the overwhelming majority. Actually, photojournalism was number 7 on my list because they're like, it's one of those jobs where like it doesn't come up too often, so I'd probably put it like somewhere lower on your list, maybe halfway down your list. So it was I think it was about number 6 or 7 on my list. And actually number 1, I put missile and space systems electronic maintenance, essentially with ICBMs and nukes and all that. Again, thinking about my future, I wanted to work on spacecraft eventually, and so I got my number 2 choice. So my number 2 choice was aerospace propulsion, fancy way of saying engine mechanic on aircraft. So that can literally mean any aircraft that the Air Force flies, you can be an engine mechanic on it. And then you find out which specific airframe you're going to later down the line. So you go through your basic training, and then right immediately after you go to tech school. And tech school is where they'll put you in what's called your shred. So not every job is a shred, but engines do. Engines as a shred. So I ended up being E-shred, which is fighter bombers, essentially. Now there's a few kind of thrown in there too. But so like, okay, awesome, cool, this is what I want. As long as they don't get bombers, because I wasn't really super inclined to work on bombers. But at the end of the day, I was like, whatever I get, I'm going to make the best out of it, and it's just going to be awesome. So going in, I was like, okay, cool, fighter bombers. Well, then if that case, I want to work on F-16s, F-15s, F-22s, the cool fighters, that's just awesome. And I wouldn't say I was like the biggest fan of the A-10 growing up, just because it just wasn't my thing. It's one of those things I found later in life that was just a super unique and really cool mission. And even when I was going through tech school, it was a fighter bomber, so I was working on the GE, the General Electric F-110 engine.
Okay.
For advocates out there that kind of know that, it's it's the same engine that goes into your B2, your B1. F-16 is the main one. That's why I usually just tell people, yeah, I've trained on the F-16 engine before I went, but that's essentially what it is. It's a fighter bomber engine. And so I'm like, cool, I'm going to go to an F-16 base then, or a bomber base. I was pretty nervous about that because it really literally does decide your next couple of years of your life where you're going to live. There's only 16th at certain bases, only bombers at certain bases. And we knew that the A-10 was a part of that shred. It was just kind of tossed in there because it didn't really fit 100% with cargo or 100% with fighter bombers. So that was just a part of it. I don't know if they changed it now, but I believe that's mostly the same. And so 2 weeks out from graduating from tech school, it's about 2.5 to 3 months with weekends and all. About 2 weeks out of graduating, the head civilian instructor popped his head into our classroom. He was like, "Which one is Thorne?" I was like, "I'm sir." He goes, "Cool." And I want to say he said, where was it? Eielson Air Force Base?
Or what was it? Elson?
Yeah, it was
that the base in Alaska.
No, it was the South Dakota base, and I'm blanking on it.
Oh.
Yeah, but I want to say it was one of the South Dakota bases.
Okay.
And he popped this in, and I was like, okay, so that's gonna be my life from now on. That's okay. Yeah. And it's just one of those things where I had a couple seconds to be like, okay, just kind of take it in. Don't overreact. Don't you can react later. Don't make a scene out of it. It was just not at all what I had in mind.
Where are you from originally?
So I'm from Florida. I'm from the west coast of Florida. So if those of you guys who know Tampa, I'm just south of there in Bradenton, Florida. It's right across the Tampa Bay. So I wanted to originally kind of be somewhat close to home. In the southeast region, I wasn't too picky. I chose mostly eastern bases. And so, yeah, and then about 5 or 10 seconds later, he pops his head back and he goes, "Just kidding, Moody Air Force Base, Georgia." And I was like, yeah, I had to make a sigh of relief because I was okay. That's close to home. Okay. And then it wasn't until I got home or got back to my my dorm room that we couldn't bring your phones in the schoolhouse. So I got back and I Googled it, and he said Moody Air Force Base A-10. So I was like, oh, okay, so that's still close to home, but that's not what I was expecting at all. So I was like, oh, okay, kind of. I got back to my my dorm room and I looked into it. I was like, oh, it's only a quick 4-hour drive from home, and that's not too close, not too far, so it kind of worked out. I was okay, A-10's okay, I can do this. And then ever since I've just jumped into it and dove into it, and it's been incredible, and it's now my favorite aircraft, and I'll always have a special place for it in my heart, even after it's gone.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's kind of hoping that it's not real, that it doesn't get phased out. Unfortunately, Air Force is trying to do the whole 1 to 2 airframes, make it cost effective and all this other, stuff. But we're not talking about those other airframes. We're talking about A-10s today. So nothing else matters except for the A-10. What's some of the unique challenges you've experienced working on the A-10 engines? This has been your only experience, right? You haven't been able to work on anything else, but have you noticed anything that is a challenge to work on?
Yeah, I'd say so. And I've noticed recently that this is starting to become a bigger problem with other airframes as well. But I mean, you take a 50-year-old airframe and you say, "Hey, we're just going to stop making parts for almost all of this stuff. Not all of it, but pretty much all of it." That makes it really hard when you need to go swap out a part, and they're just like, "Yeah, sorry, we just don't have it." So it's one of the few airframes, probably along with I believe maybe the B-52 as well. Some of these older 40, 50-year-old airframes, 50%. I'd say probably maybe 50% or more of the time, you're doing what's called canning or cannibalizing. So you're taking parts from from another jet that we've deemed the Canberg for those couple months, and you're taking it off there and you're slapping it on and you're kind of just hoping it works. And most of the time it does, or sometimes it's not even the problem. So it takes twice the amount of maintenance. So a lot of those problems that come with just not having the parts is one of the biggest challenges of it, I'd say. That and just seized parts that haven't been changed in decades, parts that have been, all around the world, literally on this airframe that haven't been removed, and all of a sudden we need to remove it, get to it, and it's pretty interesting to watch. And then there's, you have these old crew chiefs that become your bosses, who may have never worked on the A-10. They've worked on F-15s, F-16s, and so the biggest challenge of that too is, hey, I worked on this airframe and this is how we did it there. It's like, sir, that's not how we do it here, and we can't do that. This is how we do it here, and this is how it's been done. Not necessarily just out of a sense of ignorance, but like we've tried what you're talking about before, and it just doesn't work, or whatever the case is. So I'd say that's I'd say the social challenge of it as well. And then they get it eventually. They're, oh, okay, I see why we do it that way. And so you kind of come into understanding. Every time there's new leadership, it's just kind of the same story being told.
How many people do you think went out to the boneyard to kind of nitpick over those engines and bring parts back?
We've actually sent some people out there before. We've even had like the engineers from GE come out and talk about, oh, we might use the A-10 as a test bed for these new igniters, because almost every time we have to change an igniter, the lead itself that it connects to the igniter will break. So there is still some, if you ask the right people, 5-10 years left in this airframe still, depending on parts. But we also sent some people out to the boneyard to go grab some parts off that. We're like, hey, we're really low on this part, or we're really low on that part. Let's go get like 10 or 15 of them from the boneyard, so we'll send a crew out there. I never had the opportunity to go, but I do know they do the photo flights out there with the helicopters, so that's definitely something I want to do. And it'd be really interesting to be like, oh, I've sent that jet to the boneyard, I've sent that jet to the boneyard, and I could take pictures up there and in a legal way where it's like just about impossible any other way.
Yeah, there's some people that I've followed that have gone out to the boneyard. I'm like, dude, how are you even walking around and taking photos and standing on the wing and hanging out? I'm like, there has to be something going on out there where you can get a tour, or you're just kind of illegally, walking around and doing stuff. Who knows? I'm just looking at the GE TF-34s, which the A-10 has. It's the same engine that was on the S3 Viking and also on the RQ-170 Sentinel, which is fairly new aircraft. What changes have you seen in the A-10 community with or the culture over your career?
As far as maintenance, as far as just overall A-10 stuff?
Overall A-10 stuff.
I will tell you what, I've had the privilege of being able to go out to at least, I've been around with Sun and Fun a couple years ago. We were on static display. We brought a few of our jets. That's just the air show I go to every year, and I've been going to there since before I can walk. So I was just there on leave. But some of my buddies were working the stand, and recently this year I got to go to the Seymour Johnson Wings Over Wayne air show, and I did get to work that one and travel. I was a part of a crew of 4 mechanics and 2 pilots that got to go out there and have our jets on static display and have just everyone come up to us, ask questions, selling swag, stuff like that. And it's cool. Especially in that region, it was really cool to see people be like, I saw you guys out, and I remember the jets over in Myrtle Beach used to fly over. I saw my dad used to work at Pope Air Force Base, which are all places the 23rd Wing has been, or at least not Myrtle Beach, but so it's really cool to have people kind of come up to you and when you let them know, like, hey, I work on the A-10. Like and a lot of people are, but I'm extremely proud to be working on this airframe because I know the history and I respect the legacy that it has. A lot of people, unfortunately, it's just a job for them, and I get that too. But I never let that stray me from what I believe and what I like. So it's pretty cool when people kind of be like, oh yeah, man, I was out, you work on the A-10, man, I was out in Afghanistan, and that that jet saved my life. That's a big one that you'll hear. And like that, if that jet didn't exist, I wouldn't be here today. And just like good memories from people that want to share that with you has been one of the most unique experiences. Me, I'm just a mechanic. I just fix the things, and I wasn't around. Unfortunately, haven't gotten the chance to deploy yet. Hopefully, that can change. But just to know that the jets that I work on, and not like, oh, jets like this one, like this actual airframe has been over and it's done serious business overseas on multiple occasions. You see the kill markers on them. You just see the battle damage from them, and they just, yeah, they look old, and but they're showing their history and their age. It's really a unique experience that you don't get with every aircraft. Now, each one is unique in their own way. To me, the A-10 is just the coolest in terms of mission, and the mission set for it, and the stories that you hear and the connections that people have to it.
I remember when I first got hired as an air traffic controller in 2006. I was out in the academy. It was Oklahoma City. I was out there for 3 months. And, Oak City is pretty much a central hub for, tinkers out there, not too far. Oak City, there's a lot of training, like cross training between agencies, military branches. And I was just hanging out, having a barbecue by the pool one day. Some pilot was out there studying maps. I walked up to him and was like, "Hey, man, what are you learning, at the academy or whatever?" And he's like, "Oh, I actually fly A-10s." And he had told me this story of, I don't know where it was, like Desert Storm or something way, in the years, more, in an older sense than I was, right? And he's like, yeah, we were in Desert Storm and they were flying A-10s, and this, or what was it? Maybe it was air traffic. I can't remember. But he said this A-10 got shot to hell. Like half the wing was gone, was calling for a place to land. It pretty much belly landed onto this dirt strip. It was on fire, and the pilot said, "Just let it burn. I'm safe in this cockpit." Because it's like just full titanium. It's not gonna do anything. And they just let this aircraft burn on the strip. And then, when the wings fell off and the whole fuselage is gone, then they're like, okay, let's put some foam out on this cockpit. And the guy just walked out. He's like, yeah, mission's complete.
Funny note about that too is a lot of people, yes, like we call it the titanium bathtub, what you're referring to.
Yeah.
Surrounds the cockpit and everything. Yeah, it helps with enemy artillery because we get really low to the ground, but it's actually way more useful for belly landings.
Yeah.
And it's in its design. The reason the wheels don't go all the way up into the aircraft itself is because it's designed to belly land. They know that there's a high risk of getting shot up and that you won't be able to use your landing gear. They use it to save weight, and they use it to, it's designed to belly land. It's just the way it is.
It's definitely
another cool thing about it that you really don't see in a lot of airframes, almost any of them actually.
Yeah. It can survive it. That's why your engines are up higher, you're not going to damage the engines. You could shoot off half a wing on it. There's an old Warbird picture. I don't know if it was a B-17 or a B-21 or something, that it got, shot up over, World War II, and it came back with, holes in the fuselage and holes in the wings, and it still returned back to some landing point. There's a picture out there. I gotta find it. I'll post it to the channel when I do. But sorry, I go off on a tangent. I remember all these things. We'll get back to it. How do you feel about the debates over retiring the A-10s and versus keeping it operational?
Well, I'm one of those people who, if you ask, I'll tell you that's a lot more life left in it. Now, that's as playing nerd and somebody who's really passionate about it. As a mechanic, I can tell you it would be a challenge to keep it any longer than they want to. But it's all about funding, and if Congress wants to fund to get upkeep it, upgrade it, get more parts for it, then it 100% has way more life in it. 5, 10, 15 years even. Will they do that? Probably not. They're not going to. I mean, the fact is that the clock is ticking on it. Now, it's not going to be a year like what was proposed a couple months ago, which is nice because that got rejected. But we were still looking at a 2028 full fleet divestment. All A-10s are going to be gone, and that really sucks. Me personally, I feel like I have lived a whole lifetime in my last 4 years, going out to the range as much as humanly possible, taking all the photos, just enjoying it, being up close with it, TDYing, and hopefully I'll fit in a deployment if it allows in the next couple years before it's gone. Maybe the last one. Who knows? My feeling it's just gonna happen. Whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. I don't have any control over it, so I don't stress in I don't stress about what I can't control, which has been a really big kind of life changer for me too. But yeah, it's just gonna happen when it's gonna happen. I wish it would stay around forever, obviously, like everybody else. But it'll also be. It's a very interesting time too, because with all the divestments, us at Moody Air Force Base are a lot, like pretty much. I don't know if this is the exact number, but it feels like almost every A-10 that its last home will be Moody, pretty much. So I've seen, obviously, our jets, but when other bases like Indiana got rid of all theirs, Osan just got rid of all theirs as well.
Maryland.
Maryland is about to get rid of theirs. We're the last stop for a lot of jets. So I've seen our jets all around the flight line, right? That's just how they're painted. We've got the shark mouth, the historic shark mouth on there from the Flying Tigers. But I've had the opportunity to see Maryland A-10s come here, Black Snake A-10s come here. Now Osan, we have like 6 Osan jets now, which won't fly for a while. They still need to be inspected and whatever before they're ready for local flights. Let's see.
Would those keep the same tail markings, or are they going to change the tail markings?
I wish they would. Usually, though, they'll keep them on there for a little bit before they're ready for paint barn. So I've gotten the opportunity to see the Maryland A-10 fly before they got painted. I'm assuming we're going to get a lot more in the next couple months once they divest their fleet. I would really like to see another Osan jet fly. I got the opportunity to see one out in Vegas, which is pretty nice. So at least I got to see one fly. We'll see about the rest. So yeah, usually, and a lot of interesting stuff too. So I've seen DM jets, Davis Monthan jets come to our way, and we have one, I believe it's still painted this way. It's aircraft 1988. That used to be out of DM, and they repainted it. However, instead of getting rid of everything, they put the shark mouth on it. They put the checkered tail on it with, for the 75th. But they kept the pilot and crew chief decals on it because that's actually I want to say he was our deputy commander at the time, or deputy wing commander. That was his old jet, so he requested, from what I was told, he requested to leave that as it is, but it's the old Dragon decal on the side, and they just replaced names on it. So they left that, and it's got shark teeth too. So it's really interesting stuff like that you really don't see anywhere else. Personally, I think we should just, keep them how they are, so we, at least have a couple. But that's just the way they do it, and that's the way it has been. We also have some new squadron birds, some new flagship tails. That's as much as I'm going to say about that because they're still pretty new. That I'm really excited to see, and I hope I get to see flying soon. Some we've brought back from previous years too. So
have they retired all the painted birds? I know
when you say painted, you mean like
the demo
full paint?
Yeah, full paint. Like the camo one got sent to the boneyard. I heard the one that you had for Moody.
Yeah, so that was 660. I'll tell you what, that was a pain to work on, and the paint started peeling and fading after a couple of years. But just because it was different, I thought it was really cool. I got to see that multiple times out at the range before they sent her to the Great Beyond. Now, for the most part, yes, like the full painted birds have been gone. I would like to see another one that's an old A-10A model heritage for our base, for the fighter group. Whether it's going to happen or not, I don't know. But I will say we do have a couple new, like I said, flagship birds that are coming out. But I had an idea a while back when they were all still flying to get our heritage bird, the two demo heritage birds, and some of the other ones from the other bases that were full painted like that. Get them up in the air and get them all in formation and do a photo shoot. Never worked out. There were some talks about it with, I talked to Major Johnson, Johnson. Right. We were like, okay, well, maybe if we do this, it might work. Like on the way down to Stewart, we might have to rendezvous, that kind of stuff. Stuff like that's just so hard to organize, and you're just, it just never happened.
I think you got to be a little higher on the package there, the
Absolutely.
command side.
That's the thing is it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. So as long as you can get the idea in somebody else's head and they want to run with it, then they'll take care of it. So that's what I've learned too. I've gotten in people's heads that way. You're like, man, this would be really cool, and then all of a sudden it happens.
For sure. So you're talking about the range. We got a few questions here, like, how many more days Moody has before it all goes away. So bee colony. So pretty much the Moody birds have a shelf life until 2028. I'm sure they're going to continue using the range until they're done. Let's go back to earlier this year. You were at the range. I was at the range. We were all kind of hanging out there. Tell me about that day that you're on that hill with the 476 fighter group. How was that for you?
So I've had the privilege of being able to volunteer for a lot of opportunities with the 476. With those who don't know, is the 476 Maintenance Squadron, 476 Fighter Group is our reserve squadron at Moody. We have three squadrons: 74th, 75th. Those are both active duty, and then the 76th Fighter Squadron is Reserve Fighter Squadron under the 476 Fighter Group. All, you got AGRs, TRs, and I can go into that later, but just basically, it's a reserve squadron, and I know a bunch of people from that squadron. We work together all the time. So, hang around them enough, and they're just like, hey, by the way, we got this going on. Would you want to come out and shoot photos? And this time it was, hey, we're all going to go on the range. You want to take photos? Like, yeah, sure. It's like, okay, I don't think you heard me right. We're going to go on the range, like not over at the grandstands where the and visitors can watch from. We're gonna go on the range on the hill and get physically as close as you can to the A-10s when they're doing their gun runs and their bombings and all that stuff. So had to put on full battle rattle, Kevlar vest, helmet, all that stuff. Definitely need to wear ear protection for that. Usually I don't want to go to the range because it's far enough away and I'm used to it, but definitely had to wear ear protection for that one and go through multiple briefings like, hey, this is what's going on. This is, you say abort when you need, if something needs to, if you call something off, anybody can call knock it off, abort, whatever. And it was basically an opportunity for those folks that have never experienced combat, have never called in an airstrike, have never called in for close air support to get their hands on a radio and actually communicate with the pilots. Now the pilots knew all about it. They're like, hey, listen, we're not going to do anything that's unsafe. But they were firing. They were doing all the stuff they usually do. And that was a ton of fun. They were like, hey, do you want to come out and shoot photos for that? Absolutely, I do. So I went out with my camera. And I've had a lot of unique opportunities like that. Even though I'm not public affairs by trade, I still have that access. And I have this art that I've made my own for the last 5 years that has been changed my life forever. And so to be able to go out and do that was a super cool opportunity. Got a lot of up close shots and even had some close calls too. That was a lot of fun. That's as much as I'll say about that too. It was a unique experience for sure.
Yeah, that final, I got an awesome shot, and I think we all got an awesome shot of you out there taking a picture of the whole group as this A-10 is coming and kind of like banking right overhead. I don't know what it looked like from your perspective, but from our perspective on the grandstand, I was like, okay, this is pretty much the best shot I'm going to get today.
Yeah, and it was pretty cool. Afterward, I knew there were people in the stands. I'm like, oh, I really hope they got that. So it's like me, the whole group, but then photographers all the way back at the grandstands were able to photograph me taking the shot, and then the compression from that far just makes it look like it's right on top of you.
Oh, yeah.
That was an incredible day for sure.
How does that day compare to um that final show at Stewart with the final A-10 demo?
Let me tell you what, man. Getting on the range was unique in its own way. I don't think there's a show or event that can top the final A-10 demo. It was straight out of a movie. It was incredible, and I was super lucky to be one of the few photographers allowed up with Matt and with the team for the duration of the show each day. And that was just my own personal relationship with her. Knowing her for the last couple of years has been incredible, and she's just the greatest person. For those who know her, has been an absolute privilege to know her. And now she's flying the F-35, so I give her a little bit of crap about that sometimes. Like I do all the pilots that go in transition, and they know it too. They get it. They don't want to transition over to the newer stuff, but it's a different beast. But yeah, I mean, the Stewart show was once in a lifetime opportunity. I think back, like, man, you got like the F4, the F-14. You think about those dinosaurs that are gone now. You're like, man, I wish I could have seen those when I was flying. And the A-10 is one of those where I got to, I'm here for the end of it. I'm here until the end. That's part of the reason why I chose to continue my service and go reserves. But even for the last A-10 demo, where it's not, I wouldn't say it's not that's not mission related, because it's all mission related. It's one of the best recruiting tactics you can have, taking out, and it's also, but it's something that's somehow completely separate from my service. However, I wouldn't have had that opportunity if I wasn't serving the Air Force. I wasn't going out to the range, working on these things, and just had the passion that I had. That would have never happened. Just like the last 4 years would have never happened. There was tears, there were happy tears, sad tears, just a whole bunch of emotion. Like, it was, and they had the second demo was the last one, closer to sunset. The lighting was beautiful. I mean, just people as far as you can see. People came all over the world just because it was the last A-10 demo. And you had the announcer who had talked just before they started playing the music, and she walked up and started her demo. Like, you could hear a pin drop. I know you say that, but no one was saying it. It was, at least from my perspective, quiet as a mouse. And to this day, my favorite batch of photos that I have ever taken, where I didn't feel like I was just taking photos, I was capturing moment, I was capturing history. And it's some of those photos where I'll just look at them and be like, I can not do anything to this photo to make it better. It just is what it is, and it was just captured and froze that moment in time. And I don't think I'm ever going to beat that. And I hope I get that same feeling again, but I think that's pretty hard to beat.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It's on your, pinned photos on your Instagram here. That lighting, just being there, just watching her go through all the motions. It's just, and we have amazing filmmakers in the aviation community. We have Preston Monarch and we have Kyle, and these two guys work together for that final A-10 show. And it's just, it's a piece of art with their film that they came up with. So I'm trying not to think about it, because like, I was like looking at it, I was like, oh man, it's history. You're witnessing history kind of end for that airframe. I don't know how long DM has been flying demos. My first, A-10 photo was like from 2004. We kind of like showed a little bit of that when Crispy took the shot, was on the episode last episode. I've been capturing the A-10 for almost, over 20 years. It's bittersweet to see that, it's bittersweet to see it again, and knowing that it's not going to fly again. I can't imagine how it is for you that actually put hands on, is working on those engines, working on those aircraft, and all of a sudden now you're working on that's going to be the last flight. You're working on the aircraft that the next flight is going to the boneyard, and then that's it. I can't imagine I can't imagine how that would feel. It is an iconic. It saved countless lives. Being a close air support aircraft. I always said, like give the A-10 to the Marines. Let them continue horsing around with it. They'd keep on using it, I'm sure. But look at the B-52. We're getting new avionics. We might be getting some new engines on that thing. That aircraft is way older than an A-10. Let's put some new turbofans on the A-10. Let's see what we can do with that.
Yeah.
There's ways for it to extend its lifetime, but it is aging aircraft. So we had put out in a little prompt on the channel. I only saw one question when I checked it earlier, but Jacob Wilson at JJW Photography underscore 1990. Man, these so long, all these handles. He's asked how many maintainer or personnel hours are required to operate or required for a flight.
I don't know if there's really one number for that because they're literally like snowflakes. Each jet is different. It depends on the day, depends on the week. I don't know if I have exact number for that.
Do you have like a cost per hour?
I don't know that actually. You think I know a lot more, but I know a good amount about my job, and I still, it's one of those where the more the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. And there's a whole other part to this. Yeah, I'm not really sure about the
I
specifics
found
of
it here.
this.
It says the 2022 Government Accountability Office, the GAO report, reports an hour of operation cost is $22,531.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah,
That's nothing.
I could tell you how many hours we put in trying to get one jet to fly, though. I mean, that's just like hey, this jet broke today. We need to get it up. Like a lot of it's weekend duty stuff. So you're on weekend duty. Say you need to fly 8 jets on Monday specifically. Now, usually for about 8 jets, you probably have roughly two spares, 2 jets that are already ready to go. That hey, we got a problem. We can't fly this jet today. We call it pilot has to step to another jet. They'll hop out, and the other crew chief will start prepping the other jet, get it ready to go. So say we need 10 jets for Monday, 8 total, 2 spares, 8 flyers, 2 spares, and so you say you go into Friday, just before weekend duty, and they're like, hey, we got like 6 good jets, and we need 10. We need to fix 4 of these jets, and sometimes we'll make it happen. Sometimes there's just nothing you can do. There's just no parts, and that's part of the reason too. Why it's just so frustrating. You'll just spend all of weekend duty, multiple hours, and you don't have enough. There's never enough people, never enough money, never enough time. So stuff like that's really interesting. Maybe it'll be like, okay, well, we started out this week, this weekend with 6 jets, and now we have 8 good jets. So we'll call that sitting flush. So we have just enough jets to meet the flying program if nothing has to spare up, nothing gaps. We call it ground abort. So there's definitely a lot of pressure on it, added pressure to keep the flying schedule going and get these jet fixed and get them ready for Monday. And it gets very stressful. It gets very frustrating. So I will say it's not all rainbows and sunshine. It's aircraft maintenance. It's going to be what it's going to be. Yeah.
We have a few, our local base, Homestead Air Reserve base, they have the F-16s, and they're pretty much being Frankensteined right now. We have, I think we're supposed to have like 18. We're lucky if we have 14 operational, maybe 12 operational at a time, and you could tell they have panels that are being replaced. They're still primer green, or they'll have speed tape on one aircraft. I just saw an aircraft last week that was it looked like a giant Band-Aid on it, like the rubber kind of coming out of the panels, just kind of like keeping it sealed. So those old aircraft, man, they're just we can't go into a machine shop and just kind of fab together something. We have to get something from another aircraft to make a Frankenstein model.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw anything when you went up to the range last time, but you could definitely see when you're up close, and a lot of them have bigger, primer green panels than others, but a lot of them seen better days. Now, some of them will go to depot and they'll go to paint shop and they'll get repainted. And so you can tell the ones that just got painted, they'll stay that way for maybe a week or two. And then they're right back to being dirty well, the gun grease and just overall usage.
Yeah. Did you get into photography before you got into the Air Force, or was it kind of like tandem?
I did. It was almost exactly a year, actually. I want to say June, July of 2020. I guess you could call it my COVID hobby, but it was just before COVID got really serious in Florida. And I say that as far as like schools canceled, you can't go out, that kind of stuff. And so I want to say June, July, I picked up my first DSLR as a Canon Rebel. And then, yeah, a year later, I joined the Air Force, and I had always been in aviation. And so, and for the most part, taking pictures on my phone and editing them like on whatever app that I had always been in me. So like, I'd say photography probably started a lot before that. But to me, what I consider the beginning of my photography journey was when I first got my first DSLR. And it wasn't until a little bit later I started going out to my local airport, kind of doing that stuff when I joined the Air Force. Funny enough, it's actually funny to think about because my life would be completely different now. When I was in tech school, I was just looking at my camera gear sitting there. I was like, I might just sell this. I might just, because I'm not really shooting a whole lot. And I think going to Moody, going out to the range, and being with the A-10 kind of saved my photography career. I mean, honestly, there was a good month or two where I was seriously considering just selling all my photography gear and just being like, yeah, I guess this isn't my thing anymore. And I couldn't be further from the truth. It is, other than, I have my work side, and then my personal side is, I used to have a lot of hobbies growing up, and I used to design and build a lot of stuff in my engineering class. When a lot of those resources weren't available to me anymore, photography kind of became my only thing. And when you're only doing one hobby instead of 3 or 4 hobbies, you start to get really good at it. And especially with the passion I've put into it, has been a lot of fun to see my growth and how I've been progressing with it the last couple of years. And more than anything, the people I've met and the connections that I've made, because now I have so many incredible friends and colleagues and people that I've met that without photography and without the A-10 would have never been possible. And so that's really cool stuff to think about, because up until then, there have been a few things growing up, middle school, high school that have been like that. Not on this level, because I can finally be my own person and choose my life. And this is life that I chose, and it's been just the best. Just the best.
Yeah, I mean, I could see your progression in your photographs just by looking at your page here. I mean, you have everything from, rocket, space, aviation, of course, concert photos. The lighting for the concert photos are just incredible.
Thank you.
You've done some portraits. You have some air-to-air on here with the American Dream, the P-40, and then, there's just the lighting, the backlit, everything is just kind of perfect. It's incredible. The editing's changed the, photojournalism for the Finney flights here. It gets better as it goes.
Thanks,
It's
man.
awesome.
I appreciate that.
Epic experiences just by looking at your feed here. And you've worked on some awesome projects too. You worked with Sam Ekholm, recently with RJ Ritter.
Yep.
Out of all these projects that you've done, what is your most memorable so far?
I mean, the RJ Greer one stands out a lot because I wouldn't have gone to Oshkosh without them. Him and his girlfriend Tabitha have been incredible. We first met at the Stewart Air Show. And so that was when they first told me, hey, we want to get you out to an air show. And the thing that sold it for them was my candids over my aviation. Like the overall, I think is what got me the gig. But what sold it for them was my candids, and they love the behind the scenes stuff. So I'm tempted to say that just because it was so recent and it was just such a great experience. It's really hard to choose. The Sam Malcolm video was a ton of fun because it was just so different. It was so last minute. Brought it up to him before, like, hey, if you're gonna do an A-10 video, I'd love to come out and maybe shoot some photos for you. One day I was just sitting in my dorm room and I was still living on base, and my buddy's like, hey, that YouTube guy is here. I said, Sam? And they're like, I think so. And they sent a picture. Yep. I got dressed real quick, grabbed my camera, and I drove to work. and just, caught a ride on our bread van, and it was like, hey, drop me off over here. Like, okay, cool. I dropped off and I said, hey, man, nice to meet you. And like, well, what are you guys doing? They go, okay, cool, A-10 video, obviously. Do you guys want, if you want, I'd love to provide some behind the scenes photos. I got nothing going on. He's like, absolutely, yeah, man. So that was a really cool, spontaneous thing. One of the pilots that I know very well, he's actually one of the founders of 30 millimeter bourbon, which is pretty big in our community. He has since gone to fly the F-35 as well as a bunch of other guys. Turns out him and Sam were in the same Air Force Academy class. So he ended up being like the spokesperson of the videos. Josh Fuego Flores. So another great connection there that I've had the privilege of knowing him. So yeah, day one was all the flight line stuff, all that. And then day two was going to the range and getting up in the JTAC tower and shooting a lot of those cool behind the scenes stuff. Now, if I did that today, I think I could do a lot better job because I look back at them and be like, and that's one of those fun things where I got it all in my Lightroom, so all I have to do is go back in there and re-edit some stuff. And of course, the gear's different, but if you have an eye for photography, then you'll get some good shots. Like I'm really lucky with a lot of those and some really interesting stuff. And my panning's gotten a lot better. Got to stand right beside the runway for the takeoffs and really just kind of unique stuff. So I've gotten to see and do a lot of things that people in my line of work would never get to do, and I'm so grateful. I feel so lucky for those opportunities. I'd have to say, just overall, I mean, I look back on all of them with great fondness, just feeling super lucky that I even got to do them in the first place.
Yeah, and I remember at a McDill, you were up there in a helicopter also getting
Yeah,
the I guess the paratroopers jumping out, or I don't know
yeah,
what exactly it was, but
yeah. So it was the SOCOM Paracommandos.
yeah,
That was another kind of just crazy coincidence. It was one of my buddies from elementary school, middle school, high school. We've known for years. His, I want to say, yeah, his stepdad is a pilot in the Army Reserves. Reached out to me a couple weeks before the show and said, "Hey, you're going to the McDale Air Show?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You want to fly with me and shoot photos of the U.S. Army or the SOCOM Paracommandos?" I said, "I mean, there's not really a good way to say no to that, so I'm just going to say
yeah,
yes because that's incredible." That was also a really special time, looking back because while the SOCOM Paracommanders were jumping out, we had Mike Goulian and Rob Holland
yeah,
were circling them with their smoke on, and so we got to fly in formation with them for a little bit. And looking back on getting that opportunity with Rob was extremely special. And I've been trying to meet up with him sometime to be like, hey, I don't know if you remember this. I was in that Black Hawk, and just show him the photos. And I finally got that opportunity at Stewart last year when I was doing the last A-10 demo. She said, hey, man, I just want to share this real quick. I really respect your work, and I think you're an incredible pilot. I wanted to show you these photos that I got. And shook his hand and said, okay, it was during the night show, so I was like, I'll let you get back to it, but it was very nice to finally meet you. And that was my one and only interaction that I ever had with him. But I'm glad I got to tell him that,
yeah,
just to be like, hey, I thought that was a really cool moment to share. And I've grown closer with Mike Goulian over especially working with RJ Gritter. They're really good, all really well connected. They're all really good friends, and so got to spend some time with him at Oshkosh as well. So now, not only getting really, incredible memories with the military and that side of things, but now it's funny, you think it'd go the other way around. But now I'm starting to, I grew up going to air shows, and now I'm finally starting to cut into this scene where I'm going to shows, I'm getting paid for it professionally. It is a pretty wild thought because a lot of it, pretty much every single military photo shoot that I've done has been free. Just, hey, I want to come out and shoot this, or been asked to go out there. So to be able to get recognized for my work and paid for my work now is an awesome added bonus, and getting to fly out to these shows has
oh
been
yeah.
super cool.
Yeah, and the air show circuit is a whole separate group of people, but still kind of combined with the military, combined with every separate act. You have the aerobatics crew, you have the like Sun and Fun when I went out there, man, it was you had the military displays, you had the aerobatics, you have the warbirds, you have all these little different groups in there, but they all come together at an air show, and it was like old friends.
Yeah.
Like every one of them. It's really incredible. Like it's something fun that stole 2 days. So it was like Thursday, Friday. And just seeing that was like, holy cow, I didn't even like I've seen
Yeah.
bush planes from like Alaskan bush people, like, or like a hunting show going to Alaska, and you're like, oh man, bush plane, that's kind of cool. But until you see it and you walk right up to it and you're like, okay, this is a Piper Cub, this is fabric. These planes weigh less than 1,000 pounds, or maybe 1,000 pounds with just the engine, you know?
Right.
And you could take off and land within 100 feet. Holy cow, that's amazing. Um, Getting close to and making those connections, making those relationships with different groups is just it's a whole other side of aviation. I can't imagine what Oshkosh was like. Uh,
And I'll tell you
and
what, because I mean, get I so for reference, like I said, I've been going to Sun and Functions before. I could walk before I could talk, and that's all I've ever known as far as a big air show. So that's just, and it will always have a special place in my heart. Don't get me wrong, and that's never going to change. I'll still continue to go and whatever. After going to Oshkosh, it's going to be hard to not go back next year because getting to be like I said, I did some air to air with RJ Gritter, Paul Bennett from Australia, Skip Stewart, and Nathan Hammond. And the Hammonds are a lovely group of people as well that I've been able to get to know over the last couple of air shows and have been super welcoming and like saving a spot on their Seneca to go up and shoot air to air and be able to see it from the air, especially with. I mean, it was massive. And then you look at it, you're like, oh, yeah, this is pretty big. And then you see the two Goodyear blimps that look like Tic Tacs, and like,
yeah,
oh, this is really massive because like you walk it, you'll be like, yeah, this is it's kind of a far walk, and then you'll be like, yeah, this ain't bad. And I was talking to Tyler Hernandez, one of my good buddies, Zone 5 Photo, like, yeah, man, that was that bad of a walk. Is you're not even halfway through the whole thing, by the way. Okay, and then I got to go up, and then see all that was like, okay, kind of take it all in because I've never been able to do half the stuff that I've done at Sun and Fun that I did at Oshkosh. Got to experience the cheese curds and the spotted cow and all that the right way, and it was for sure life changing. And if I had it my way, to go every year. Now we'll see what the funding's like next year, but yeah, that's pretty addicting. Not gonna lie.
yeah. I had no idea how big it was going to be 2 weeks prior. I was like, okay, I got some free time. Let me see how much it costs to fly out there to Oshkosh. I'm like, okay, it's like $550 just to go to Wisconsin. It's kind of crazy. How much are hotels? Oh, $1,200 a night. Okay, I
Yeah.
guess not.
Yeah, this is what was perfect. All the stars aligned, and they're like, RJ and Dad, they were like, all right, listen, you just figure out lodging, we got everything else. I was like, cool. And then Joe hooked me up, and he said, hey, man, I got a guy who's looking for people at an Airbnb. He said, perfect, thank you so much. And then everything clicked right there, and if I didn't have lodging, I wouldn't have gone. But I did, and it was an incredible. I went Tuesday through Saturday, left Sunday morning, and I'll tell you what I'll never do again is I'll never schedule a 5 a.m. flight the morning after the Saturday night show.
Yeah.
That was I've stayed up a lot of long nights, and I've gone 30-hour days, 36-hour days, no sleep or very little sleep. That was a challenge for me because it was also an added like I will miss my flight if I don't set 8 alarms, and so next time I'll just try and get a later flight if I can. But just the way the timing worked out. I wouldn't trade it for the world, but that was an incredible experience, and I still have plenty of photos to share from that I'm waiting, and they're pretty much all done. I'm just waiting to post them.
I think it was LA Photo was out there, or one of these LA photographers. I think his name is LA Photo. He showed how many photos he caught over like 4 days, and it was like 14,000 or something like that. And I was
Well,
like,
I actually had 14,000, and I only went, like I said, Tuesday to Saturday, and I didn't shoot like half of what I saw. I
yeah,
was extremely considerate with the shutter button. That electronic shutter on the R5, yeah, that's a beast for sure. That's 40 frames a second, and that was pretty much all during RJ's performance. And that's the first time I really used electronic shutter like that as well. You don't, try to get that nice propeller and everything. So that was a decent surprise how clean those images came out. I was really happy with that.
Yeah.
Some of the best lighting I've had at any of his shows was, I want to say, that Saturday show. They both were beautiful, and it was a great performance. And he performed a lot better on Saturday as well. So that was just an overall great thing. I shot some video for them as well. That'll be fun to share in a couple weeks or so whenever we get that together. So
Awesome.
excited for that.
Cool. Man, it's been a great episode. We're kind of over time, and I want to get cut off by Instagram. So real quick, where can people find your photos, and how can they maybe book a session with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as far as booking sessions, it's pretty much all just DMs. I don't really have anything set up for that right now. I have a website, cooperthornephotography.com. My Instagram, cooperthornephotography.com, right here, and then on Facebook, I'm just Cooper Thorne. So super easy. I decided a while ago that I don't. People have their own names and stuff, and whatever they're gonna do. I figured if I'm gonna make something my brand, I want to put my name out there and be proud of it. And it also makes it a lot easier because I want to introduce my people like, oh yeah, okay, I've seen your stuff, instead of being like, oh, who are you, Instagram, whatever. And there's a place for that, and I get very amused with some of the names people come up with. It's really cool. But for me, I was like, that will work. So yeah, that's where they can find me. Just Thorne, Cooper Thorne Photography.
Awesome, man. It was a pleasure having you on. Would definitely have to do it again. Uh, I have like another 6 or 7 other questions I want to ask you, but
Yeah,
I don't want to get cut off here. So we'll kick it off again another episode later down the
absolutely.
line. Thank you for joining. Thank you everyone for joining another episode of the Spotters Podcast. We'll see you in about 2 weeks for the new episode, and you can always catch the live again on my reels, and the audio will be on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and probably YouTube later on. Who knows? It's expanding. All right, Cooper. Thanks
All
for
right,
joining,
Austin.
man.
Thanks for having me, man. All right,
Have
have a
a
good
good
night.
one. Good night.